Welcome everybody, Cryptic here, back with another video. So no, I'm not dead. I'm gonna be making videos for a while now. So in this video, we'll be looking at Godot's 3D version. So let's get straight to the video. First, we have ourselves a 3D Godot scene. How do you go about creating a 3D project, you may ask? It's so simple. First, just delete if you are in a project, and if you created a 2D project, just click on the 2D and then delete everything there and just click on this button and we got yourself the 3D viewport. Now there's a couple of things. First, as you can see, the z-axis is the blue one. So if you see this blue line here, this is your z-axis. The red one is the x-axis and the y one is the y-axis. The green one is the y-axis, and the viewport looks amazing, right? So here what you guys will do most of your time. And how am I moving, you may ask? I hit the right click and it shifts from the outer view to the inner view, and then you can move. Use your mouse wheel or mouse to move around the camera inside, and WASD keys to move. Isn't that amazing? If you hit shift, you can move really fast. It's like a game or something. So this is your view, and you can go however you want, and you can come over here, come back. So this is your view, and I want you to do is just go ahead and practice with it as much as you want, because the most of your time will stay over here. So I'm back here. Now we were talking about how the 3D space will work here, and if you want to move the axis on your own, you will go ahead and press the middle mouse button and then drag. This will make you rotate around its own axis, so you can get a pretty nice view on a particular model if you want. So let's look at the hierarchy here. First, I want you to learn about the little bit basics of how Godot works. If you don't worry too much. So this is your scene hierarchy. This hierarchy is different if you want to make a 2D game and if you want to make a 3D game. If you want to make a 3D game, you'll obviously use the 3D scene. But if you want to make a 2D game, you will use the 2D scene. Now these nodes are different depending on what they are. So for example, if you want to create a user interface, you'll go ahead and choose this one, and 3D for this one, and 2D for this one. And other node if you want to make a custom one, which is often really used. I will explain why in in this video as well. So let's get straight to creating the first 3D scene. First, let's click on the 3D scene, and we have ourselves a spatial node. Now this spatial node is just like a normal node, but it has some properties like the z-axis, which is the scale property. We have the z for each one. If you go ahead and create a 2D scene, the translation will not have a z, but we have ourselves a z. Now let's go ahead and create a new box. So in the spatial hierarchy, we'll have a rigid body. Let's add, we have vehicle body as well, but we will use a rigid body. And the rigid body will obviously, if you watched my other videos, you will know that a rigid body also takes a collision shape. So we have ourselves a collision shape. So I already did that, so I'm going to use the recent tab here, double click. So we have ourselves our collision shape. Now the collision shape have a problem. What is the problem? Let's click on this button and says a shape must be provided to collision shape to function. So let's provide a shape to collision shape. Click on the collision shape and click on the shape icon here, and let's add a new box shape. Now how I knew that I will be sorry, what the heck I'm saying? How did I knew what to use? Because I know that I'm gonna create a box. So for that collision, we will be using a box shape. If you want to create a, let's say we have sphere. If you want to create a sphere, you will click on new sphere shape. But for now, we will be using box shape because we will be creating a box. Next, let's add another instance, which is the mesh instance. Now, what is this mesh instance, you may ask? This mesh instance is nothing more than the mesh itself. So any cube is a mesh instance. So let's click on the mesh, and we will use obviously a cube mesh. And as you can see, it looks amazing. And the cube mesh works really good. So we have ourselves, and look at the collision shape. It automatically, if you look at closely, these edges here, it looks almost perfect for a cube mesh. So let me just, okay, so we have ourselves, and you can just move these things. Sorry about that. Can I do that, please? Nice. So let's go ahead and move the whole thing. You can move the whole thing. Remember to move the rigid body, the main instance, not the collision shape, because it will mess you up. Let's see, like that. Do not use this, and let's save the scene. First, let me delete these two scenes first. Let's delete this. Let this one, and let's say, before I delete the scene, I wanna explain some of the concept first, because we have to do it anyways. So what I'm going to explain here is the rigid body. If I want to create another rigid body, let's say Control V, Control C, and Control V. Come on, mate. How do I do that? Is there any duplicate option? Control D. There we go. Okay, so this is your two instance. So let's suppose there are players. I want to change something, like for example, let's change this box shape to a circular shape, and as you can see, it looks absolutely horrible, and the mesh instance needs to be changed as well. So let's go ahead and add a cylinder mesh. So as you can see, it's just a cylinder mesh, but what I want it to happen is when I change one thing, let's suppose these two are players, right? These two are players. So when I change one rigid body, one thing, I change something else, I want it to change here as well. But there is no way we can do that, is it? We have to, if there is, like, if you have 20 levels, will you go to the 20 scene and then change the one simple variable? No, you will not do that. So what is the best way? What is the proper way of doing it? So let's go ahead and delete these two rigid bodies and start from scratch. What I'm going to do is add, first let's see how we are doing it. First, we need to make sure that there is, for each instance of the game, let's say each instance, so player, plane, we will have enemies, or we will have some obstacles. For each instance, there must be several scenes that hold those instances, and then we can add them to this instance. So let's go ahead and double click, and let's say, so you can name whatever you want. I'm gonna make it the world scene. So everything, this is your main game level, everything will come here, every single scene will come here and add as an instance. I'm gonna explain more, and you will get that really soon. So don't worry if it sounds really complicated, but it's actually really not. So let's go ahead and save the scene as the world.tascn. So our world is ready. World is ready to go, good to go, and we have nothing here. So let's go ahead and create a new scene. So this is your player scene, right? So go ahead and add a 3D scene. First, let's delete them. And if you want to create a random, like for example, a mesh like we did, there is no way then using the other node. So click on the other node, and that's the reason we'll be using the other node, because this is completely, you can use any node you like, but for them, like 2D scene, 3D scene, these things, you cannot use them. So the rigid body will be going here. Then let's add another one called, like the same thing. Let's just quickly do this, mesh instance and a collision shape. Collision shape, which one there? There you go. So let's add a new scene, shape I mean. So new box shape, mesh instance. Let's add a mesh instance. Box, where is it? Box, where are you? box. There you go. This is your box. And let's change this to the player. And let's save him as a player. But before you do, make sure you add as much folder or file structure as possible so you don't mess up. So let's add a new folder. Let's call them, what should it call? Components of each game. Okay, let's say components. If you have any other good names, let me know in the comment section. But for now, we'll be using player.tscn. So let's go ahead and save it. We have ourselves a player scene. Now this scene is empty, but what we want is our player to come over here. So you'll click on this little button. It says instance of scene file as a node. That's exactly what we want. So in the components, player.tscn. So as you can see, we have ourselves a player. Yay. Now what's the purpose of this thing? Let's do what we did in the previous time. So let's duplicate and put that thing right here and go over the go over to the player scene. Then let's change the mesh instance to a capsule mesh. This sucks. Sphere mesh, sphere, and the collision shape to sphere. Then save. And if I go back, the world scene, as you can see, everything got changes and it changes automatically. Now, if you have multiple of even millions of levels, you will not mess up. How awesome is this, right? Let's go ahead and let's just stick to the ball maybe, because it will look cool when it like slides. So for now, what we learned is how to use the Godot's structures to understand what is node and how can we use multiple scenes inside of the node so we can get the most benefit from each scene. Now there are multiple types of scenes, so we mostly scenes are used for two different reasons. First is obviously the world, and then every instance. So I want you to play around with these and mess around with these until you get comfortable with how Godot works. And the 3D and the 2D versions are pretty much the same. In the next episode, we will go ahead and code our first player and we'll add a plane so we can stick to it. So my let's say type of assignment, or whatever you want to call it, go ahead and create another scene and add a plane. So we have a plane and add this ball, this our player, on top of that plane. If you can do that, you understood it perfectly. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you in the next video.